Here's some data about how many cases of tea were sold by each of 3 salespeople in each of 3 months. To make this data into a chart, I'll start by selecting the data. I'll click in cell A2 and drag to cell D5. Next, on the ribbon, I'll click the Insert tab. Here in the Charts group are the different types of charts that I could create: line or pie, bar, area. Well, I'm going to select column because column charts are commonly used to compare items, such as how these salespeople stack up against each other. I'll click the button to reveal a list of different column chart types I can select from. As I pass the cursor over each chart type, a screen tip displays the chart name and also gives a description of the chart type. Well, I'm going to select this one, clustered column. And that's it. I've created a chart with just a few mouse clicks, and you can see how the salespeople compare to each other month by month. Over here on the right is the chart legend, and it explains the colors assigned to each salesperson. For example, blue is assigned to Hanson, rust is assigned to Alexander, and green is for Parker. Now, Hanson outsold the others in January. Do you notice the screen tip? It says Hanson, which identifies the column, and January, identifying the month, and also value 240, which is the value in the cell that the column was created from. Now, Alexander outsold everyone in February, and then Hanson again outsold the others in March. Note, if you want to move a chart from one area to another, one way to do that is to use the 4-headed cursor. Just click and drag the chart to where you want it. When you create a chart, chart tools appear at the top of the ribbon with 3 tabs: Design, Layout, and Format. The tabs contain all the commands you need to work with charts. When you complete the chart and don't need the commands anymore, click outside the chart and the commands go away. To get them back, click inside the chart and once again the chart tools appear. By the way, if you decide you don't like the chart type after you create your chart, or it doesn't display your data the way you wanted it to, just click inside the chart. Then on the Design tab in the Type group, click Change Chart Type. I'll try this type, and I'll click OK, and that's fine, but I think I like the first type better, so I'll click Change Chart Type again, click Clustered Column again, and click OK, and there my original chart is back. Now I'll click outside the chart, and the chart tools go away. In this chart, the data from each spreadsheet cell is a column. We've got 9 cells of data and 9 columns. Data for each salesperson appears in 3 separate columns, 1 for each month. The height of each column is proportional to the value in the cell that it represents. The chart legend on the right, created from the row titles, the salespeople names, tells which color represents the data for each salesperson. Column titles, the month of the year, are at the bottom of the chart. This chart has 2 axes. On the left side is the vertical axis, also known as the value or y-axis. This axis is the scale of numbers by which you can interpret the column heights. The months of the year are on the horizontal axis at the bottom, also known as the category or x-axis. By the way, changes that you make to the spreadsheet data after the chart is created are instantly shown in the chart. I'll change the figure in B4 from 175 to 700. Now watch the chart as I press Enter, and you see the column for Alexander in January update growing taller. Also, the values on the vertical axis changed from 600 to 800 to adjust for the larger value added to the data. This chart isn't the only view I can have of the data. The chart compares salespeople to each other month by month. The x-axis at the bottom of the chart shows that the data is arranged by columns, January, February, March. And the chart legend is made up of the rows, the salesperson names. But I can literally swap the data over the axis so that the salespeople are compared to themselves instead of to each other. To create this new view of the chart, on the Design tab, in the Data group, I'll click the Switch Row Column button. If you'll take a look at the chart as I click the button, you'll see it change. Now the chart says something different. The x-axis at the bottom of the chart now shows the row names, Hanson, Alexander, and Parker, and the chart legend is made up of the column names, January, February, March. The chart now shows how each salesperson did month by month compared against themselves. So here's all of Hanson's data, all of Alexander's data, and all of Parker's data. To switch the chart back to the original view, I just click Switch Row Column again and take a look at the chart, and there we're back to the original view. Chart titles give descriptive information to your charts. Then readers don't have to guess what the chart is about. You can give a title to the chart itself as well as to the chart axes, which measure and describe the chart. A quick way to add chart titles is to go to the Charts Layout group on the Design tab. Here's Charts Layout, and click the More button. And there are these tiny images of different chart layouts with names such as Layout 3 and so on. Well, I happen to know that Layout 9 will give me placeholders for a chart title and axis titles, so I'm going to select that, and there are my placeholders. First, I'll select the chart title and type in Northwind Traders T. Then I'll select the vertical or y-axis on the left, and I'll type cases sold. And finally, I'll select the horizontal or x-axis at the bottom, and I'll type first quarter sales and click outside, and now my chart has descriptive information. When you first create a chart, it's in a standard color and style, but you can change that color or style in just a few seconds. Here on the Design tab in the Chart Styles group, I'll click the More button, are all the different looks that I could get for this chart. Now I could change the color to any of these colors, but I think what I'd like to do is to keep the same color but to pick this kind of beveled look for the chart. So I'll click OK, and now the chart columns have changed to this new look. If you'd like to make the chart or axis titles stand out more, that's easy to do as well. I'll click the Format tab, then I'm going to select all of my text here in my title, and then here in the Word Art Styles group, in Text Fill, as I pass my cursor over the different colors, I can see the change in the chart. And I think I'll pick this color. And I'll do the same thing for the axis titles. I'll select them, click Text Fill, change the color, select the text, click Text Fill, and change the color. I can also do more with the format of each column. For example, I can add a shadow to each column. I'll click on Hanson and notice these little round grab handles, and they're on each one of the columns in the Hanson series. Then on the Format tab in the Shape Styles group, I'll click Shape Effects, then I'll click Shadow, and I'll pick this shadow here, which is offset diagonal top right. Then I'll click Alexander and do the same steps, shadow, offset diagonal top right, and finally I'll click Parker and click Shape Effects, shadow, and offset diagonal top right, and now all the columns have shadows behind them. Excel has a lot of chart types to choose from. This, for example, is a clustered column, which is a standard column chart type. I'm going to change it to another type. On the Design tab, in the Type group, I'm going to click Change Chart Type. And next to Clustered Column, I'm going to select Stacked Column and click OK. This stacked column has only one column for each month instead of 3. The chart shows the relationship of individual items to the whole. For example, Parker up here in green, Alexander, and Hanson are all displayed in the January column with the values for all 3 salespeople stacked on top of each other. I'll click Change Chart Type again, and this time I'll select 100% stacked column and click OK. The 100% stacked column is like a stacked column, but the columns stretch to fill the full height of the chart. The value or y-axis on the left displays percentages, so you focus on total percentages, not the total numbers. And I'll change chart type one last time by clicking Change Chart Type, but this time under Line I'm going to select Line with Markers and click OK. This type of chart is well suited to showing changes and trends over time and makes comparison of salesperson performance dramatically visible. For example, Parker here in green, sales are pretty flat near the end of the range. Hanson started out a little bit higher, then dipped, and then improved in March. Alexander, on the other hand, started quite high and then has been in a steady decline ever since. Use a line chart when you're representing evenly spaced values such as months, quarters, or years. For more information about different chart types, see the quick reference card at the end of the course. Unlike a column chart, a pie chart can show only one set of values. I've got a list here of items sold for lunches at a cafeteria and the amount of money made on each item. So I'm going to make a pie chart to show the sales. I'll start by clicking in cell A2 and drag to cell B6, and notice that I'm not selecting the total in cell B7. Then on the Insert tab, in the Charts group, I'll click Pie, and this time I think I'll make a 3D chart, so I'll pick this 3D pie. Now that's not all I want to do. I'd like to change the style just a little bit. So on Chart Styles, I'm going to click the More button, and there's a chart here that has little white lines around the pie and between the different pieces of pie, and I'll select that, and now I've got my white lines. But that's not all. I'd like to have the percentage for each type of sale in the pieces of pie. So I'm going to go up here to Chart Layouts and click the More button, and I can see a percentage sign here. It's pretty tiny, but I can make it out. And now I've got the percentage signs, and it matches up with the legend. So for example, blue is beverages, sold 9%, and rust here is sandwiches, which was 40% of the sales. Now the last thing I'll do is create a chart title, and I'll just type in lunch sales, and now I have my chart explaining the sales.